Good afternoon to all. Thank you for joining us. My name is Darren, and together with my colleagues in R&D, we will be your webinar hosts. This year's e-Symposia is remodeled from the Urban Sustainability R&D Congress held biannually since 2011. In place of a two-day physical event, we have lined up a year-long series of webinars that will cover even more research themes and innovation topics of interest to all of us. On behalf of our 20 co-organizing ministries and agencies, we welcome your active participation, suggestions, sharings at the various webinars over the year. The overarching theme, Emerging Stronger, Innovative Cities of Tomorrow, reflects our view that research and innovation will assume an increasingly important role in supporting efforts to rejuvenate our urban environment, enhance our living experiences, and to successfully pivot towards the post-pandemic economy. Research and innovation will also produce the needed solutions to address both our emerging long-term urban challenges. For today's opening webinar, we have lined up an exciting program where Minister Lee will open the session with an overview of the key research focus areas in the urban solutions and sustainability sector, and to share how partnerships in innovation can support growth and transformation. MND's Chief Technology Officer, Dr. Johnny Wong, will elaborate on these research areas and our research, innovation, enterprise plans going forward. Through today's webinar, we also hope to broaden our horizon and to share more conversations on the possibilities in USS R&D. We are pleased to have with us Dr. Chris Luebkeman, Head of Strategic Foresight Hub at ETH Zurich, as well as Mr. Thomas Kirmayr, Managing Director of the Fraunhofer Building Innovation Alliance, to share with us global trends in the USS sector and their insights on RIE strategies. After their sharing, we will be having a Q&A session with our distinguished international guest speakers. The session will be moderated by Prof. Khee, Dean of the School of Design and Environment at NUS, and we look forward to hearing your questions and suggestions later. I'm glad to share that we have a very good turnout today. Without further ado, may I invite Minister for National Development and Minister in charge of Social Services Integration, Mr. Desmond Lee, for his opening address, please.
Ms. Grace Fu, Minister for Sustainability and the Environment, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and welcome to the inaugural Urban Sustainability R&D e-Symposia. I'm glad that so many of our friends from government agencies, industry, and the research community can join us today. Instead of a physical two-day R&D Congress held in the previous years, our e-Symposia will comprise a series of webinars over the course of a year. This is a different way of organizing, but I'm confident that it will continue to be very meaningful. One of the many lessons of the ongoing pandemic is that Singapore and other cities in the world need to be resilient, sustainable, and livable. As we make our way towards recovery, we must not lose sight of the looming threat of climate change and the importance of resource sustainability. And that is why we launched the Singapore Green Plan 2030. This is a whole-of-nation movement to strengthen our climate resilience and improve our living environment. Now, an important part of this effort is to continue making critical investments in research and innovation so that we build new capabilities to pursue sustainable development. We are doing this through the Urban Solutions and Sustainability, or USS domain, which is a key part of the Research, Innovation and Enterprise, or RIE 2025 plan. The RIE 2025 plan charts Singapore's research direction over the next 5 years. To support this, we have set aside $25 billion. Under the Urban Solutions and Sustainability domain, we are investing in R&D to find new ways of making our city more sustainable and resilient. This will also support the growth and transformation of our built environment sector and create attractive jobs for Singaporeans. In other words, if done well, our R&D efforts will not only make our city more resilient, but will also help to strengthen our economy. To do this, we will build on the strong foundation laid by investments in earlier RIE tranches. We strive to push the research boundaries in 3 main areas of priority. First, transforming the built environment sector by developing more productive ways to design, build, and maintain our city. Second, driving efforts to mitigate or adapt to the impacts of climate change. And third, deepening the social-emotional connection that Singaporeans have with our city. Now first, we will press on with our efforts to transform the built environment sector. The construction sector was one of the sectors hit hardest by the pandemic. This painful experience has strengthened our resolve to change the way we do construction once and for all. We must decisively shift the built environment sector away from its heavy reliance on manual labor. Technological breakthroughs from around the world can help us to build faster, safer, and more efficiently. For example, through greater use of robotics, automation, and digitalization. One way to do this could be to incorporate robot-oriented design in construction. We can also explore using collaborative robots so that we can automate more tasks in a coordinated way. To kickstart this effort, HDB and A*STAR's Institute for Infocom Research, or I²R, will work together to develop a 5G-enabled smart construction concept. I understand that they will sign a research collaboration agreement on this right after my speech. 5G technology enables multiple devices to connect with each other at a faster speed with ultra-low latency, and this opens up new possibilities. For example, we may be able to deploy more robots that can communicate and coordinate with each other in real time. This would improve construction productivity. Now, our second priority area is to continue charting a sustainable and climate-resilient future for Singapore. This supports the Green Plan. Under RIE 2025, we will do more to tap on our green and blue assets to mitigate the impacts of climate change. In Parliament earlier this month, I spoke about stepping up research to support our national aspiration of becoming a city in nature. In particular, we will expand the Cities of Tomorrow R&D program to include a new research pillar which will focus on the scientific foundations needed for a city in nature. Some research areas could include finding even better ways to integrate greenery into our urban environment, enhancing biodiversity in our ecosystems on land and at sea, managing human-nature relationships for better health and well-being, and using nature-based solutions to mitigate or adapt to climate change. Indeed, there's growing interest worldwide in using sustainable methods to manage the impact of climate change. And we also recognize the great potential for our blue spaces to contribute on this front. Under RIE 2025, NParks will lead a $25 million multi-stakeholder research program to advance the core sciences of marine climate change. This aims to develop solutions that can help manage impacts like rising sea levels, increasing sea surface temperatures, and extreme storm events. This marine climate change science program will comprise different research areas. For instance, it will strive to better understand the impact of climate change on marine species, habitats, ecosystems, and connectivity. It will also study how we can better protect our coasts from rising sea levels using nature-based solutions and ecological engineering. And it will explore the science of what is called blue carbon, the carbon that is captured and stored by coastal and marine ecosystems. This can help us to find ways to further reduce Singapore's carbon footprint by conserving our coastal and marine ecosystems. So we achieve two objectives at the same time: reducing our carbon emissions and conserving our natural environment. In addition to making good use of our natural assets this way, we will also continue to invest in new technologies to drive sustainable development. For instance, some technologies have the potential to reduce our carbon emissions significantly, particularly in emissions-intensive areas like the power and industrial sectors. Certain energy technologies, like hydrogen energy, produce very little carbon and could thus be a big improvement from fossil fuels. Other technologies may enable us to capture, use, or store carbon, which would lower our overall carbon footprint. But many of these technologies are not yet viable, either technically or economically. So we are working to overcome these difficulties and accelerate the development of viable options. We're also exploring new technologies to to reduce the energy consumed and the waste produced by desalination. These will not only reduce our carbon emissions, but will also help us to achieve water sustainability. PUB recently awarded close to $11 million to 6 projects researching such technologies. Now, our third area of priority is to build capabilities in urban social sciences and use these to better inform our urban plans and designs. We aspire to build a city that not only meets our physical needs, but that also enables us to forge strong relationships and deep emotional connections with each other. We will therefore develop new ways to understand how well our city is doing in terms of the well-being of our residents and how this is affected by the built environment in Singapore. We will do this by combining social science knowledge with big data analytics. And this project is the first of its kind. It was conceptualized as a result of many consultations with social scientists across the various universities. Professor Lily Kong, President of the Singapore Management University, and Dr. Cheong Koon Hien, Chairman of the Centre for Livable Cities, will spearhead this effort. We will conduct this research in partnership with a multidisciplinary and multi-institute consortium led by the Nanyang Technological University. If this effort is successful, our findings will inform our planning strategies and interventions to build a socially more resilient and sustainable city. So we are integrating social sciences with hard engineering know-how to develop new strategies for urban and community development. This is a nascent but increasingly important area of work, and we welcome the research community and our industry partners to work with us on this. Now, to achieve our goals in our 3 priority areas and beyond, we need all our USS partners to work together. To this end, we will strive to create even more opportunity for collaboration between researchers, the private sector, and the public sector. By working together, we can develop more impactful solutions for Singapore and potentially for cities around the world. There are many initiatives to support such collaboration. For example, BCA has set up the Built Environment Technology Alliance, or BETA, which brings industry members together to lead and catalyze research and innovation. We have also opened up avenues for companies to test their new ideas in practice to facilitate translational research that turns scientific concepts into practical applications. One example is the Built Environment Living Laboratory Framework, and we are committed to doing more. To support greater collaboration, HDB and A-STAR will sign a Memorandum of Understanding with the aim of taking the research findings of M&D agencies, translating these into useful commercial applications, and then scaling them up to make our built environment industry more competitive. And there are many ways this might be done. For example, we can mine our intellectual property to develop products that are useful for cities, communities, and corporations. Or we can better promote business matching between government agencies and industry partners, so that they can work together on solutions that are relevant for both parties. I encourage all our industry and research partners to tap on these platforms for collaboration and turn your ideas into deployable solutions and bring them to market. Now let me conclude by saying again that there are many exciting opportunities for our research community to work together to advance our urban sustainability. We want to ride on our current momentum, foster more partnerships with our industry, and create a more vibrant ecosystem. Now, we have much to discuss and many creative urban solutions to explore. So it may well turn out to be a blessing in disguise that our traditional 2-day R&D Congress has been stretched to a year-long e-Symposia. This will enable more of us to dial in, share more insights, and further contribute to our urban sustainability R&D efforts. We hope that these conversations will spark many new ideas and partnerships. So let us build a better, more vibrant city of tomorrow together.
Thank you, Minister, for sharing the good R&D opportunities awaiting the community. Let this be the start of many good conversations and R&D partnerships in RIE 2025. As Minister mentioned, the Housing and Development Board and the Agency for Science, Technology and Research have concurrently signed a research collaboration agreement and a memorandum of understanding to kickstart partnership efforts. Through the research collaboration, HDB and A*STAR plans to achieve smarter construction with the adoption of 5G technologies, advanced robotics, and automation to drive productivity and safety in the built environment. The MOU will also bring together the research community, agencies, and industry partners to facilitate partnerships in technology transfer and translation of M&D R&D outcomes into commercially ready products. It is our pleasure now to share more about the collaboration.
With 5G, a new wave of connectivity has emerged. With more efficient data processing and instantaneous access to information, how will we be using it? Adopting advanced technologies for the built environment, HDB and A*STAR are jointly developing a suite of 5G-enabled smart construction solutions to boost construction productivity and safety. Integrating data from multiple sources, these 5G solutions will accelerate autonomous and real-time remote operations. With its end-to-end cybersecurity system, sensor data and images from these 5G solutions are protected within its own private network, driving low latency operation and reliable connectivity. These 5G solutions enable the use of drones and robots to live stream actual site activities and capture high-definition LiDAR sensor data instantaneously. These legged robots capture visuals of building interiors and LiDAR sensor data as they maneuver through the buildings. Images and sensor data captured are automatically integrated into the digital twinning solution to accurately reconstruct and develop the 3D building information model. 5G enhanced mobile broadband enables real-time streaming of high-definition videos and images captured by the drones and robots autonomously. AI-enhanced computer vision technologies can autonomously detect non-compliance in the donning of personal safety equipment and construction site safety practices. With the use of AI and machine learning, autonomous tracking of site activities for any safety lapses can be done remotely and autonomously. Relevant personnel will be alerted instantly with live feed videos for immediate rectifications. All these solutions not only drive higher productivity and safety in construction, it can also translate into other innovative solutions, opening new possibilities for engineering and construction businesses in Singapore. HDB and A*STAR's I2R signed a research collaboration agreement to develop 5G-enabled smart construction solutions to drive construction productivity and safety. In addition, to broaden the synergies and facilitate technology transfers, HDB and A*STAR signed a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on commercialization of M&D intellectual property.
Over the years, HDB has delivered excellent housing for Singapore and Singaporeans. In the process, it has leveraged science and technology extensively in the form of structures, materials, modeling and simulation. Under RIE 2025, which is our R&D master plan, public agencies are working even harder now to translate research all the way to impact. In this regard, A*STAR has had significant experience converting IP to commercialization and to realize value. And we will be able to partner HDB to help them maximize this IP portfolio. And we look forward for this journey with HDB to do more good for Singapore and Singaporeans in the days ahead.
The COVID-19 pandemic situation has disrupted global supply chain and put tremendous stress on the construction industry in Singapore. It has led to construction delays across the public as well as private sector. But amidst all these challenges, we think that there are opportunities to be had as well. So with the impending rollout of 5G networks in Singapore, HDB hopes to adopt 5G smart construction technologies using robotics and automation to enhance construction productivity as well as to reduce our reliance on labour, which are the two issues that are plaguing the construction industry in Singapore. So through this collaboration with A*STAR, we seek to harness new technologies and solutions to continue our mission of building quality homes for Singaporeans. Over the years, we have built up tremendous wealth of knowledge in the urban solutions of our built environment sector through relentless research and innovations. HDB is also now the agency responsible for IP management within the M&D family. We seek to leverage the expertise as well as the networks of A-STAR to try to accelerate technology transfer and the translation of the research outcomes of agencies to benefit the industry and Singapore at large.
Congratulations again to HDB and A-STAR. As part of the RIE 2025 planning, agencies have identified key trends and areas where we will focus our research efforts. These include working very closely with our research community and industry to shape RIE directions and to explore multi-pathways to more collaboration. So next, I would like to invite Dr. Johnny Wong, CTO of M&D, to share our RIE plans for the USS sector. Dr. Wong will also be sharing more info on how you could get in touch with us to be part of this exciting journey. Dr. Wong, please.
Good afternoon, Minister Desmond Lee, Minister Grace Fu, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Johnny, and I'm currently the Chief Technology Officer for M&D. Welcome to the opening webinar for the Urban Sustainability R&D e-Symposia 2021. Today, for my sharing, I'll be giving you an idea of what we are doing in the USS RIE 2025 work plans, and hopefully you can see how you can play a part in this R&D journey. I have appropriately entitled my sharing, Cities of Tomorrow, Unleashing New Possibilities Through Innovation. Let me start off by sharing with you what research, innovation, enterprise, or RIE landscape has been doing over the past few years. We started in the 1990s with an investment of $2 billion for research and technology development works. And as you can see, over the years, we have increased this investment. And last year, we have announced RIE 2025, where we have invested $25 billion, the largest amount, to drive research and development. RIE 2025 has 4 key components. The first would be manufacturing, trade and connectivity, human health and potential, smart nation and digital economy. And of course, urban solutions and sustainability, or USS, which is the space that I would like to share more with you today. For USS, we also came through a very long journey. We started off in 2010, focusing research on existential challenges that we face in terms of water, energy, and land optimization. Then in 2020, we have expanded our research to focus more on some of the areas that drive cities. For example, like urban mobility, advanced construction, resilient infra, smart facility management, and of course, food to enhance our food security. Moving to 2025, we want to expand this to circular economy, healthy cities, and even looking at how to address climate change better. And we have achieved much in our USS journey. In RIE 2020, we have launched 4 key programs. They are the Cities of Tomorrow that actually looks at how we can improve construction productivity, maintainability of infrastructure, create new spaces, and of course, drive greater sustainability in the built environment. We also invested on a program to look at closing the waste loop, understanding sea level rise due to climate change better through the National Sea Level Program, and of course, the Singapore Food Story, which look at strengthening our food safety, science, and innovation. And from these programs, we have achieved quite a number of good projects. Some are still ongoing, But I'm showing you some, not all, examples of projects that actually can help our urban environment. For example, we look at how to reduce the cost of underground construction. Our research also look at how to better optimize energy storage systems for district cooling. And even at the social aspect, we look at how to understand the social behavior in communities better through new urban kampong. And some of these studies have actually yielded good outcomes that we are using for projects today. I just draw out two. One would be the Integrated Environmental Modeler, which HDB and A-STAR has worked hard to develop a modeling tool to allow us to understand wind flow and heat maps in urban spaces better. Happy to share that this tool has been used for the planning of Punggol and Tengah Town. In fact, it actually is one of the winners of the President's Technology Award in 2019. And there's this new sense. Look at how we recycle waste into usable materials for construction. And now we are actually conducting trials for new sand to be used for road construction along Tanah Merah Road. But like many cities, we are continuously facing new increased urban challenges. Challenges such as climate change. Singapore, we're also seeing most of our infrastructure aging. We are also looking at how we can actually build healthier cities in view of the post-pandemic era, and we have to look for greater resiliency. On the other side, technology is also advancing very fast. And we should see how to use this technology to address some of the challenges I shared earlier. So we need to look into big data analytics, artificial intelligence, better use of drones and robots to help us tackle some of these challenges. And that's where R&D becomes important. And so in the USS R&D 2025 plan, we hope that it will help us grow Singapore into a regional hub for urban solutions. And keeping that in mind, when we were drawing out our master plan for the RIE 2025, we focus on 4 key shifts. The first is that we want to come up with more integrated approach for R&D, which means that we want to drive more multidisciplinary studies, promote more collaborations between agencies, industry, and the academics, so as to harness synergies. We want to ensure the relevance of our research to evolving landscape. As I shared earlier, technology is advancing very fast, so we need to keep abreast of this advancement and be flexible to change our roadmap when necessary. As resources are tight, we need to fund what matters. So in our plans, we make sure that we consciously move away from researching on mature areas, but move towards emerging areas that can help us. And of course, we need to augment value capture from the R&D outcomes. We need to strengthen the linkage with industry so as to emphasize on translation and also value capture. So, as part of the master planning process I will share with you, you'll see that we have concentrated on making sure these 4 shifts are incorporated as part of our plans. So when we started the master planning process, we actually gathered 17 USS relevant government agencies together. We sat down together, have a look at our R&D roadmaps for the next 5 to 10 years, look at where we can complement each other, look at where we can actually draw synergies, and look at some of the projects that we have invested over the years and map them out in a framework. As you can see, we call it the livability framework. 750 over projects were mapped out, and they allow us to see which are the areas we've invested quite a lot. Are there more that we need to do? Or where are the areas that we may not have invested enough energy and time on research so that maybe this we can actually play up a little bit in our RIE 2025 plans. But we also recognize we don't have all the answers. We know that we need to seek partners from the private institution and also the academia. So as part of the master planning process, we conducted quite intensive interviews with industry practitioners and academia. We carry out visioning workshop with international experts that we invite to share with us what they are doing, to get their feedback on how to strengthen our master plans. And of course, carry out quite a number of scenario planning so that we make sure that we are not just looking at technology today, but also focus on technology that are emerging that we can capitalize on. This gives you a glimpse of how comprehensive our engagement process has been. It's not just with the MNCs and with the research institution, but we also look at and talk to the startups and the universities from overseas. With our efforts, I'm happy to share that we have identified key trends in research that the USS will be looking into critically. These are the 10 as shown in the screen. Now, if you are an expert in this area, or you have ideas on how we can do better in these areas, please let us know. We want to hear from you. Later, I'll be sharing you an email address. Drop us a note. We want to contact you and work with you to draw out some of these plans. So after the engagement process, we framed our thoughts into how we're going to approach the RIE 2025. And this is the framework that we use. Let me blow this up. So in this framework, if you look at the bottom, we have 12 USS focus areas. These are but very important building blocks of a city. They drive a city. Every city will need water, energy, land, and also focus on things like health, being healthy, and also circular economy. But we do not want to study these focus areas in isolation. So to prevent that, we mapped it out into 6 integrated thematics areas that actually paints the outcomes we hope from our R&D approach. We want to have our city more sustainable, resilient, livable, and also there's strong social connection between citizens and the city. And of course, cross-cutting areas like climate change and how to capitalize on smart and efficient urban systems to make lives better in cities. All these are driven so that we create a vision for our R&D to drive towards a city of tomorrow. And while we look at these 6 themes, we actually broke them down to 23 sub-objectives, which agency will be studying, and we'll be calling grant calls and getting feedback on how to expand some of these sub-objectives that we're looking at. Work has already started. I'm happy to share with you that we already identified 4 game-changing areas that we're going to start off. They are, we're going to transform built environment sector by using more advanced materials and investing on robotics and automation. We want healthy cities through enhancing our urban planning and design, and also looking at livability strategies. And of course, climate change, very important, to support our Singapore Green Plan, which the government has recently announced. We want to understand urban heat island effect better and how to address it. Look at coastal protection. Look at how to do climate modeling. And of course, decarbonization. Look at how we can drive more energy efficient technology to help us save more energy, and also carbon captures. Well, we have started and we are already consulting researchers and industry partners to explore more into these areas. I also shared with you earlier that R&D is a continuous journey. So while we have painted a roadmap, the RIE 2025 master plan, we know that it must be flexible and we must keep abreast of technology to see where we need to change it. In the past, we used to hold what we call as an Urban Sustainability R&D Congress. This is held every 2 years. It's a physical congress where we gather the academics, the agencies, and of course, the private industry together to exchange information and to upgrade ourselves in terms of technology. And also in this platform hopes to come together to see whether we can collaborate on new R&D programs and projects. Well, in the last time we organized it at 2019, we had a very good turnout. More than 1,300 participants and quite a number of collaborative programs were actually launched. But because of COVID-19, the opportunity to come together at such big, with so many people is quite a challenge. So we're going to do things differently. Instead of having a physical R&D forum, we decided that we should actually organize small thematic webinars over the whole year. And we call it our R&D e-Symposia. And today, you're actually attending our opening webinar. So as you can see down here, once we open, there will be a few series of thematic webinars that we will organize, and you'll be invited to share some of these ideas and invite experts to talk a little bit more about their research focus areas. Now, while we organize this webinar, we want you to participate actively in it. We want you to use this as a platform for us to come together to deep dive into the USS RIE 2025 research teams. We want to work together with you to shape our RIE directions. So please do share your ideas in these forums. And of course, hopefully, we are able to forge new research and industry partnerships in some of these webinars. And if you notice the year-long program, there are some months where we are actually not showing any teams. No, we're not taking a rest. What happens is that we recognize that there are some events, key events that are organized by agencies, and they are linked to climate change and also the built environment. So instead of organizing webinars to compete for attention, we actually are now working with these organizers to see how we can weave our webinars as part of their program. So watch out for some of these announcements, and we do hope that you also join us in these events where we will be organizing our webinar. I've shared with you what we are doing in terms of the RIE 2025 master plan. I have also shared with you that this master plan is going to be flexible. We are going to have a year-long e-symposia where we actively see where are the new areas and whether we should actually tweak our master plan. But important is that we also drive research and innovation in the built environment. So for the RI, research and innovation, we have many different pathways that we have developed over the years. I'm just sharing some with you. For example, we do have quite a number of grant calls that we'll be calling, and we'll continue to do so. But these grant calls are not just by agencies. We also actively partner with industry to do joint agency and industry grant calls. We also have open innovation platforms like BEMP by BCA or Cool Ideas Enterprise by HDB. This is where agencies will post challenge statements and invite the industry to come up with ideas. They may have solutions, they may have technology that needs a bit of tweaking and are able to address some of these challenges that agencies face. These are the platforms we want to hear from you. We have also been providing funding so as to promote more research and industry-led R&D efforts. The Industry Alignment Fund, Industry Collaboration Projects, or IAF, ICP is an example. And also, recent times, we have also been forming quite a number of what we call as translation platforms to get a consortia of companies together to drive R&D. Beta is one example. So you can see that there are multiple platforms for you to be involved. So please do plug yourself into this research and innovation ecosystem. In fact, we know that there's a lot of information, a lot of funding opportunities. So what we're going to do is that we're going to put all this thing into a portal. It's called the Urban Solutions Portal, and it will be launched after this e-symposia. So watch out for it. Go in and find out more information, where you can get funding support, where you can get technical inputs, and where can you get the suitable network to partner together to work on ideas. Of course, we can all this funding and we can provide all the technical inputs and the challenge statements. What's most important we recognize is that there must be opportunity for you all to test your solution and your ideas. So that was why we actually have the Built Environment Living Lab framework, which we have developed with many agencies. Essentially, it is a convenient one-stop office for the submission of ideas and innovations that you want to test in government living labs. Living labs like the Jurong Lake Gardens and like in Punggol. And what this framework helps is that it also helps you to expedite some of the regulatory clearance so that your innovations can get tested easier. And where appropriate, we will also look at creating sandbox for you to test some of these solutions safely. So just to give you an example, like in Punggol, which is an eco-town where HDB drives quite a lot of smart and sustainable solutions. But wanting to stretch some of the KPIs that they have established for Punggol, they want to hear from the industry whether there are any ideas that can help them stretch some of their KPIs. So M&D, together with HDB and BCA, has carried out what we call a Call for Ideas webinar just a few weeks ago, where we presented some of these opportunities to more than 140 partners, industry partners, the IHL, and including agencies. We encourage them to come and share with us if there's things that they want to test in Punggol, and we will help them. You want to be part of this partnership? Well, do go into our portal where we share more information of the Living Lab framework and the test bidding opportunities that's offered to you. You can see the address for this portal. So I've shared much. How can you play a part? So to summarize, well, for the game-changing areas that I shared earlier, if you have any ideas or expertise to share with us, do let us know. This is the email address for you to write to, and we will get in contact with you. Help us to make our roadmap more robust and much more refreshing with your ideas. Second, this is the start of a year-long e-Symposia. Watch out for more e-Symposia EDMs and do join us if you have the time and also if the areas actually is of your interest. Check out the Urban Solution Portal that I talked about, which will be launching very soon. You'll be able to get a lot of information regarding innovation support schemes, and it also provides a channel for you to submit your proposals to us. Lastly, I shared a lot about the Built Environment Living Lab framework. Find out more in this portal, as shown. The address is given there. And think about it. Contact us and let us know if there are areas, there are innovations or there are technology solutions that you would like to test in our living labs. So, okay, as you can see, there's a lot of work to be done for USS RIE 2025, and we are just at the start of it. I really encourage you all to join us in this journey, and I look forward to working with all of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Wong, for sharing the focus areas for RIE 2025. To echo Dr. Wong, do come forward with your good ideas and proposals. If you have further questions on our USS plans, please also get in touch with us. Before I continue, I'd like to also remind participants that we'll be having our Q&A session later, and you can pose your questions via the Q&A function. Next, let me invite Dr. Chris Luebkeman to share more about his global perspectives on the USS sector. Dr. Luebkeman is a leading foresighting expert with extensive experience in urban development projects globally. He's also a close friend to a number of us. His presentation today is on Your City of Tomorrow, Unexpected Insights and Intentional Actions. A very intriguing title, I must say. Dr. Luebkeman, please.
Hello, my name is Chris Luebkeman. I have the pleasure of being the head of foresight at the ETH in Zurich, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. I'm also on the nominating committee of the Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize, an incredible honor for me to be part of this group, as well as on the IPE of the URA. I love it how we in Singapore have lots of alphabets all the time for everything. You know, it's a real pity that I'm not able to be there with you because I love Singapore, which is truly one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And I'm sure all of us wish we could be together physically and hope sincerely that next year we will be able to be. Today, I'm going to be talking about the city of tomorrow, our city of tomorrow. It's such an important thing for us to be thinking about together as we think about what our city needs to be fit for purpose for the next generations. And with that, I'd like to begin my presentation. Your city of tomorrow, unexpected insights and intentional actions. A few months ago, I had the pleasure of visiting a monastery, a convento in the southern part of Switzerland. It was founded in 1607. What's interesting to me when I was there, I love old books. And when I was there, you were sitting in this library, which is hundreds and hundreds of years old, surrounded by these books that have a unique smell, talking about certain things. And then there was this one book, which I found, which said this index of prohibited books. And not just one list, but a number of lists. And one of the monk pointed out to me that here is from Pope Alexander VII, a little piece of paper which said, this monastery, this convento was allowed to have certain prohibited books. Because at that point, knowledge was power. What you knew and what you could control with the knowledge allowed you to control other things. As a matter of fact, in the corner, there was a little cupboard which had a lock and key which could contain those prohibited books. But today, knowledge is essentially a commodity. It's what you do with it that now matters. That is the power, is what you do with the knowledge which we have generated, which we access, and which we gain. And that is exactly what this research program is all about. Is how we can take the knowledge which we have, the knowledge which we can generate, and turn that into new potentials. And I have the pleasure of addressing 4 topics here today. I'm going to do 3, but these are the 4, which are the USS, and this coming set is really going to be focusing on the first one in transforming our built environment sector. This is what I'm most familiar with after 20 years at Arup and thinking about this quite a lot. I look at that and I remember always saying to many of you here who are with us today that change is constant. We cannot stop change, which is why we're always looking, always researching. And everything inconvenient will always change. Think about the elders and at the founding fathers of Singapore with the port. And there, can you imagine what they would have thought? But not just one port, now we're on the 3rd and thinking about the 4th port, how this is always going to be changed. Because it used to be convenient to have the port at the heart of the city. And now it's anything but convenient. We want that port as far away as possible because these ships come in and out in a day. So everything inconvenient will change. We have to think about innovation is about the obviation of inconvenience. And today, complexity is essentially free, right? It used to be inconvenient to make something which was complex, but today it's no longer inconvenient. We can make things complex as easily as we can make them, quote, simple, right? And we can do this with different materials, whether it's metal or concrete or plastic or wood. In a built environment, the complexity is now free. And this is a complete paradigm shift in one generation. And here are some examples from the robotic labs and the experiments at the NCCR in Zurich. And it's quite incredible to see what we can do when we reduce materials, to just what is needed, the beauty which we can now have, which we kind of didn't have before, where we can take those lessons from nature again, coming back to our roots in many ways. And these are real. These aren't just experiments thrown around, but these are things which we can do today. We can do cooling with chilled beams within the slab, and the same slab that's also the load-bearing structure, the minimalized load-bearing structure. So complexity is free. That's quite a different concept. The next thing that we know is we are in an era of augmentation. We also know that we have a bit of a shortage of skilled labor. So how can we augment the labor we have? I do believe that nobody wants to do a bad job. All of us want to do the very best we can. And with new tools, we can begin to allow our labor force to create excellence in a way they couldn't before. And this is not that difficult. It's quite fascinating to imagine, again, the potential with these robotics, with the augmentation, to enhance the beauty of our spaces and places, to give us, as humans, the uplift which we require, the uplift to prevent us from bodily harm. This augmentation of the physical. The worst thing we have in the built environment, of course, is our back strains and accidents. And so now with augmentation, we can do that. We can bend metal through the glasses into the position which we know. We also know that anything that can be automated will be. Now, you can try to think this away, but if it can be automated, it will be. You can wish it away. You can hope it away, but it will happen. And so this is something we have to think about. So what will be this combination of automation between the human and the machine? How do we keep the two of these together in a very powerful way, in a very meaningful way, to allow both sides to do the very best, both sides to help each side be the best version of its self, himself, herself? And I truly believe this is critical. And a great example of this is this beautiful shed in wood. And can you imagine in one of our parks in Singapore where we take and scan a tree which has been planted, and we can use that to scan. We can then figure out what's the best way for the tools to drill the holes automatically. Then we put it together so then it becomes this beautiful shed. Change is constant. Everything inconvenient will change. We are in the era of augmentation. Anything that can be automated will be. And within this, we will have a democratization of tools. It used to be that a tool that you had as a company gave you a massive advantage. Today, that's no longer the case. And the industry as a whole needs to keep moving forward and sharing this through the popularization of techniques, to allow through the research to be implemented into practice, right? This is the popularization, not to look at these new techniques and go, not for me. My grandfather did it this way, so I'm going to do it that way. Or that doesn't work anymore. The digital transformation is here, and it's here to stay. And we have this ubiquity of data. This idea that we have data about the actual performance of our world, the actual cost of our materials, the transparency of that data becomes a very interesting issue, because there needs to be the systemic acceptance of these tools, of this evolution. And this is really crucial, the systemic acceptance. And this research program with the USS Now is really trying to look at how can we enhance and encourage the systemic acceptance so we can integrate the best into practice. And we're getting there. We are getting there. But it's up to us. It's up to all of us and how we decide to make our choices so that they are really choices which the next generations can be proud of. So that's a little bit on robotics, automation, advanced materials, and next is climate change. For me, the climate crisis is a global issue. We cannot wish it away. We cannot think it away. And when we look at our country, we have to look at this and say, is this really the best we can do? We solved lots of problems. We knew how to deal with things today, but are these the things which the next generations will be thanking us that we did? I'm not so sure. I do believe that in the time of the moment, in the expediency of the moment, these are probably the best solutions. But again, we know that each one of these contributes to the urban heat island effect in a way which can be just unbearable at times. And all of us know this. When we walk down some of these alleys and we just feel the heat resonating, and we know when we're looking forward that the red bits here are going to be red. It's going to be hot and hot and hot. We cannot wish this away. We have to look at this with reality. And this is what we're doing. The researchers are doing this. This is super exciting. One of the projects at the SEC Center is on Cooling Singapore, which is a multi-departmental, multi-stakeholder project to try to understand the integration of people, of traffic patterns, of heat coming from engines, heat coming from reflection, very complex issue, and trying to understand how we can make our beautiful island truly an island of paradise and not of purgatory. Now, that requires an incredible connection of solutions between urban geometry, vegetation, water bodies, and how we use them, even looking at shading for all of our buildings, keeping the heat out. Why not? We wear hats in the summertime. Why don't we put hats around our buildings? Or materials and surfaces, or transportation and the complexity of that, and energy. All of these, every single one of these is a piece of the puzzle. And it's super complex. We can no longer do our research or look at these challenges in tiny little micro pieces. We have to be doing these collaboratively. As you see here, the collaboration which was required in order for the SEC to be successful. And we believe in this tremendously. This center which we have in Singapore, it is the only hub we have in Asia as an institution. And if you don't know, the ETH is the #1 technical university in Europe and the #6 rated university in the entire world. And we're proud to have this collaboration, which has been co-funded with the National Research Foundation. And our focus has been on future cities, resilient systems, and the future health tech is now the focus. Because as Gisbert Schneider, the new director, says, the future is green and healthy. There is no alternative. And as he likes to say, the Singapore ETA Center is heights for science, engagement, creativity. Enough on that. In order for us to understand what's really happening, we need to be able to model it. And this is, I have to say, I see in Singapore one of the world's leading models on how to understand what is going on, because we need to be able to model the future impacts of sea level rise, of climate change, so that we know the impacts of the changes which we can make, not only on the coast, but on inland, so that we can continue to enhance the quality of life for all of us. Which brings me to the healthy cities, the quality of life. How do we improve our livability? How do we do this? Well, a big part of that has been and continues to be focused on how do we continue to live with, enhance, and interact with nature. My favorite drive to an airport in the entire world is right there. I've done it so many times, and I can't wait to do it again. living within the green, which gives us a certain sense of peace, gives us a cooler environment, gives us a cleaner environment that improves our livability. And this improves also our urban planning and design. When we think about the integration of all of these issues for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations. So Singapore is truly a city within nature. Now, I know one of the areas of focus is going to be how we increase this, how we improve this, how we deepen our understanding and our interaction with this. We have to. Because I saw this on a package of chips. Shake well before enjoying. Well, when we're thinking about the livability, how do we shake? How do we make it livable? At the end of the day, it's not just nature, it's not just the buildings, but it's also how we enjoy life there, the incredible food and the urban farming, which will be evolving so that our food security increases. That's crucially important, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to people and how we as people can enjoy our presence within Singapore, how we can enjoy our future within Singapore. Because at the end of the day, we also are doing research to reset our understanding of what normal will be. Now, this little virus reset all of our understandings of what normal is. We've all had to work at home with the trials and tribulations of this, the challenges which is faced. But to ask yourself, is there any other country in the world you would rather have been? Would you have felt safe? And how do we translate this preparedness for the future from having COVID for Singapore and other aspects? So COVID-19 has also given us an opportunity to rediscover the nature of nature. In many places in the world, they've heard bird song for the first time in cities. To appreciate the opportunity of a park or a green space very close by. To understand and reconsider the timeliness of time. Just as of right now, where I'm speaking to you from halfway around the world. Being able to do this in a way which we could not before, to appreciate the moments that we have with each other, and to redefine the spaciousness of space. And this is very important for all of us as we're thinking about our research and understanding the livability. What is the space that we not only desire, but do we need? And how is that actually changing? This difference between the needs and desires when we're looking forward. COVID-19 has also given us the opportunity to reevaluate the placeness of place. Now, Singapore is gifted with some of the most beautiful places and teams within URA, within HDB, within the various agencies who truly think a lot about how to make our places that citizens will want to visit. And as we're looking forward with climate change and the evolution, how do we make those also places that we will be able to enjoy when the climate changes? Great challenge, which is part of this research, and is part of the need for this last one. It's given us the opportunity, again, it reveals the power of people, the power of us to work together. And this has been an incredible lesson for all of us to remind ourselves that we can work together when we choose to. There's always many ways in which to work together. You can be forced to, or you can choose to. The latter is much easier. And this is something we need to be doing when we're looking at the research and bringing it into practice is to choose to work together, to be open for the transformation which we know is happening. So if I think of the key words, this is an opportunity for us to understand and work with nature in new and profound ways, to look at what the meaning of time, especially in our industries. How do we use our time well? Where is it we want to use our time? How do we use it? Can automation and robotics help that? Can the digital transformation help reduce the time to delivery? Or better said, maybe we don't reduce the time delivery, but we increase the time to ensure that the performance of what we deliver is truly what is not only needed, but also desired. That we're creating the spaces and places for people to thrive, but not just for today, but for the next generations. And I truly, truly believe when I look at the 10 drivers, the 10 categories, these 4 focal zones, that we're on the right track. I absolutely truly believe that. So in conclusion, when I look at the program, which has been laid before you by Johnny, I see a very, very robust program. It is built upon a common understanding of where we need to go as a nation. It's built upon an understanding of the challenges that we face day to day in our industries. It's not a fantasy world, it is a practical world. These are practical, needed projects for all of us to focus on together so that we can continue to be proud of Singapore as the Asian city to live in. And I truly believe that. And I look forward very much to helping realize those goals. With that, thank you so much, ministers, for the attention, for you, to the MND, for the invitation, and for your passion with making Singapore not only livable, but a lovable city for all of us.
Thank you, Dr. Luebkeman, for the very invigorating presentation. Dr. Luebkeman raised exciting opportunities ahead for the USS and how disciplines across the USS sector could be integrated as a system of systems to solve complex challenges. I hope Dr. Luebkeman has inspired all to work together in pursuing the boundaries of USS R&D. Now we know that there's a question about the presentation, so rest assured the recording of the materials will be actually shared online in the Urban Solutions portal. Now let me just introduce us to our final speaker, Mr. Thomas Kirmayr, Managing Director of Fraunhofer's Building Innovation Alliance. Fraunhofer is one of the world's leading applied research organizations with a key role in supporting businesses and industries to commercially exploit research technologies. Given our built environment sector is one of the hardest hit during this pandemic, there is huge potential to innovate and transform. We are glad to have Mr. Kirmayr to share more with us on the strategies in forming strong research industry partnerships and in closing the value chain in R&D translation and commercialization. Mr. Kirmayr, please.
Dear Mr. Desmond Lee and dear Mr. Grace Fu, dear ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome from Germany to Singapore. And thank you very much to be part of this e-conference for urban sustainability. I think it's a very important topic, and I'm really very honored to provide some insights in our current status and activities in the transformation of our construction and real estate sector, and how we create value from R&D. So let me share my slides with you. Okay, so yeah, that's me. My name is Thomas Kirmayr. I am the Managing Director of the Fraunhofer Building Innovation Alliance, and I'm as well the head of the National Competence Center for Digital Transformation in Building and Construction, which is sponsored by the National Ministry of Economics. I'm married and have 4 children, so as well a lot to do at home. And I have a degree in industrial economics and an executive MBA. And I'm very much involved in several national, European, and as well international boards and organizations, as well as the national standardization activities. To talk a little bit about our organization, the Fraunhofer Society represents 74 institutes with almost 3 billion turnover, and we have roughly about 30,000 employees and researchers. Over 70% of our sales come from contract research, and again, about 70% of that comes directly from the industry. So we are very much located in the interface in between R&D work and the industry implementation. Therefore, I think it's a very good setting for talking about this specific topic we have today. So the Building Innovation Alliance I am heading is one of 8 market-orientated industry alliances. You might ask why these 8 you can see here, like construction, energy, digitization, mobility, it's also machinery and plants, it's health economy, chemical industry, and nutrition. So the reason for these 8 is that in 2019, we performed a future study about the main markets with the highest need for innovation and change, in combination with a high market potential for the upcoming 10 years. And not really surprising, I think construction is one of them. So, but the slide as well shows a first part of our solution for a maximum innovation and knowledge transfer to industry. Each of these main market topics we could see here, each of these 8 has one coordinator on top of each of these alliances. So for me, it's about just a 5 minutes call to provide access to our complete range of services and knowledge out of all the 74 institutes and these 30,000 researchers. So I am the construction guy, but there is no problem if I need to know something about, for example, hydrogen or autonomous driving. The answer is just a call away, and to identify the right team of experience for our customers. So we think that the speed in communication is very essential for the outcome at the end of the day. All our disciplines are more and more linked together, and therefore we think that it's necessary to provide a perfect and quick solution in a very short time, and that the disciplines are more and more growing together. To have a precise look on what are we doing in the Fraunhofer Building Innovation Alliance, what are the main fields of actions, the main focus of our research work. So we could see it's a broad bunch of things, because we have to face a lot of changes. And it's not just the topics about environmental, for sure, the climate neutrality and based on energy efficiency, on sustainability, on ecologization and urban green, for example, is just one icon of a lot of things we need to implement in the construction industry. So for sure, the digital transformation about digital communication, about building information modeling, digital twins, IoT or artificial intelligence is definitely one of the major changes we need to face. But it's as well topics about innovative materials. We need to get more to bio-based, bionic. We have programs about programmable or composite materials. And as well, insulation is still a topic to be improved. Smart cities and smart buildings is as well a very relevant topic, because it's very close to the digitization and the transformation of our industry. So again, we see topics like IoT, artificial intelligence, but as well topics about common data environments, where to host the information, where to get it in the right connection to other informations about linked data, for example. Down to the industrialization and modularization, which is as well a very relevant topic in R&D at the moment, because we need to change our industry to have a higher productivity. So to prefab, to have more system developments and platforms, we need to think about logistics, robotics, renovation, and prefab. So the next one is circular economy. So when we look on the left side about the materials we already talked about, then this is very much linked together. So when we need to think about new materials, to be more environmental friendly, but we as well need to try to get the materials more in a circular economy. So topics about cradle to cradle, for example, recycling, urban mining, new materials is definitely something which we are dealing a lot with. Then we have more to the user-related topics. So the last three like new work, so we have a change in how we work in future. We talking about activity-based working, open or flex desking, work 4.0, but as well the very relevant topics about feeling well and being productive in the terms of comfort and health, to have the perfect indoor climate, to look at the focus of the user, and as well the very relevant topics about Corona at the moment, where we have started a lot of projects. And finally, the topic about safety and resilience. So first we talked about this topic more on the field of environmental hazardous things like flood protection or earthquake, and terror and IT security. But now we need maybe to spread it out to the topic of Corona. So a very broad field of activities, and the question is, how could we structure it down so that it could be used in a very quick and efficient manner by the industry? So to create that, I try to show it in this overview. So we try to create the solutions for the industry out of four major elements. So the first one is a top-down structure, which asks for the customer needs and starts organizing the solution in a very quick and efficient process. This is combined with a bottom-up structure representing the general availability and experience and knowledge in a kind of a performance matrix, where we could link these two things together in the middle. So the middle is then the solution structure, which is based on a very quick and efficient communication from our office and office team directly to a bunch of business developers, representing the knowledge and availability of the single institutes. This is combined by a very strong external, national, international network with the industry, politics, and associations. So our mission is that we want to be a one-stop shop for all questions according to innovation and knowledge for the construction business. This topic is not just the only activity we cluster inside the Fraunhofer Society. So the Industry Alliances for the Lead Markets, as I'm heading one of them, is just one format we use to cluster our engagements. On the market side, we have as well several centers of excellence as regional innovation ecosystems. For example, IT security or mass personalization. We have complete new topics with high relevance and interaction with the industry, set up as research factories, like we could see here for battery cells or microelectronics. For the more technology-orientated competence growth, we have on the one hand strategic research fields like next generation computing or hydrogen or circular economy, as well as some additional topic and competence-based alliances, which we could see on the left side of the slide. But now let's turn to our business and how it looks like at the moment. What is the current situation of the construction industry? I think in Germany and all over the world. So we're talking about the largest business of the world, with a forecast of nearly to be doubled in the next 10 years when we see this growth by Roland. But on the other hand, we are talking about an industry that is 70% less productive than others. So we have definitely a huge productivity gap. We create annually billions of error costs, even alone in Germany. And we are responsible for nearly 40% of the CO2 emissions in the European Union. So that is why the construction sector is so decisive for achieving the climate targets. And above all, here it's, again, the building stock, which is most important. When we look at the upper left chart, we could see that while the standard of new buildings in Germany and in Europe is currently between 3 and 5 liters of heating oil per year in square meter, and we could see that we already go down to plus energy houses, creating more energy than they use. We are already pointing the way. But when we look at the building stock, it's on average around 5 to 8 times worse in consumption. So that's definitely the place where the most effort needs to go to achieve the environmental goals. The European Union did that with a very huge effort as well. We could see that they are, at the end of the day, I think the thing is very simple. If we fail in the energetic renovation of the existing buildings, the climate targets also will fail. I think for years we have been moving slightly below 1% of the renovation rate. If it's not possible to increase this to around 3%, the goals will not be able to be achieved. Our biggest problem here is that with this, we have millions of individual users. And that is why the drivers for implementation of better energetic performance is of a very great importance in Germany and in Europe. So I think here Singapore has a very large and strategic advantage, in that around 80% of the building stock can be influenced directly by the state. Europe is trying to respond with a very broad campaign. The one is the European Green Deal, with an overall budget close to €1 trillion. And this is as well combined by the renovation wave, which even should push more power to the renovation topic than to the new construction side or new buildings. So however, I'm sure that the mobilization of the broad range of our building owners can only be started by a positive impact on the value of the property. If we manage to link the environmental performance by an SDG or ESG taxonomy, for example, with the value of the property, the driver might be big enough for us to motivate for renewal. The reduction in consumption costs, as we have it so far alone, is definitely too small to generate the necessary drive. In conclusion, I think we discovered that there is also a need for change in the culture of buildings if we want to master the future. So what we could see on the left side, on the lower left side, the European Bauhaus concept was set up by the European community very recently. And it should become a synonym for this new movement in the direction of quality of life, sustainability, and very important collaboration. In short, I think we need to change from against each other to more sustainable together. When we look at the study of Roland Berger, which is, I think, a very well-known consulting company, and they're dealing a lot with the building industry over several years. They are talking about the new normal the construction will need to go to. And they divided it up into a supply side and a demand side. And a change on the demands, when we look at the supply side, I think we see, or we could see, that one is digitization of the value chain. They propose securing of the processes. We need to improve the sustainability. We need to think about new products, consolidate the market structure. They're talking about speeding up, and that we need to target new desires. When we look at the demand side, we see that they expect more visual meetings, which is obvious, and we're doing it right now. So more home office, the introducing of financial reliefs, which might be necessary. More online shopping and ordering, and definitely more resilience, which we already talked about. So far, the prognosis from this consulting company, but the main question is that how could we adopt that and help with research and development and the necessary implementation. So when we look at our side and what this creates on the side of our Fraunhofer Building Innovation Alliance, the change to new normal focuses and builds the working foundation for our alliance. Of course, digitization needs to be mentioned here, which is initiated a fundamental change with building information modeling in planning, digital twins, IoT, or artificial intelligence for operation. Above all, I think, however, the digital connection of the individual building in the sense of a smart city to energy demand energy storage or energy production facilities, points the way to the future. To the same extent, the demand for a transformation into a circular economy is growing. To achieve this, product cycles must be closed. The building products must be more biologized or made environmental friendly, and sustainable values must be created in the sense of cradle to cradle, for example. I think sustainability values already largely determine the property value, which is expressed by the recently required ESG taxonomy for real estate financing in the European Union, with an extremely rapidly increasing trend due to more and more capital in the area of green and sustainable investment. So I think we are creating and getting a very huge new driver for the change. But industrialization and modularization are also inevitable in view of the poor processing we have and the low productivity, as well as the high error costs. I think the goals set are to be, we need to address that as well in a very intensive manner. We see many opportunities to transfer existing experience from other branches of industry to construction. For example, we're currently carrying out a project on sustainable cruise ships, which shows that we are already able to realize floating small towns in less than 9 months. So we think that there is a lot to be transferred as well from these other industries to the construction industry to speed up the processes of transformation. The last focus is the issue of resilience. Until now, as I already said it, I think we interpreted it primarily in the direction of resilient buildings and cities against environmental disasters or terror. But now with the new pandemic, I think we need to add an additional thing to the discussion about resilience of our buildings and cities. So we're talking about a huge change in a lot of fields and in a lot of areas which we need to organize inside our industry, construction industry. So we're talking about a comprehensive and as well urgently needed change process. But how does such a process look like in work? So I tried to pinpoint here the classical course of change, which fits to a lot of well-known topics like building innovation, the building information management, artificial intelligence. First, there is a shock phase in which one categorically rejects the change, followed by a perception deficit according to the motto, this will not change something in our business. But then you're the one slowly glides down the path of realization and acceptance that the change is really taking place and is more profound than one wanted to admit. In the end, you arrive in the Valley of Tears with the realization that this change is inevitable and that you yourself have no idea how to approach and use it. This is where the real active benefit process begins, through the phases of trying out and learning through to successful implementation. So the central question is how and at which points can this process be shortened, because it takes some time to make this change happen. And therefore, what we need to do is to influence the speed, to shorten the different phases to come to a quicker implementation and integration. The phases most relevant for this are the phase of realization and acceptance in the beginning of the change, and then the learning phase at the end. So when we're talking about a change which is necessary inside a business like the construction industry, which is definitely very traditional and historical. So I think it's good if we look at some theory. So the essence of this necessary change was very simply described by Kurt Lewin many years ago, and he said, if you want to a sustainable change, you first need to unfreeze your industry. To change something, you need to get them out of the current position. Unfreeze means here that you need definitely strong drivers, arguments that make it clear that without this change, it will not go on and that it's one's own one's own economy and standard of living or the competitiveness will be affected. So we definitely need very strong drivers to make an industry move. And therefore, it's essential that you need this unfreeze phase first before you could talk about something which is called move. Without this first step, change doesn't happen. And a lot of money can be spent on solutions that do not come into existence because they are not wanted by the target group. We are currently experiencing this due to the good order situation of the construction industry in many places in Germany and Europe, which is extremely slowing down our processes. Only when you have melted enough your industry through awareness that move can take place. In this phase, however, it is then crucial to have the necessary strategy ready and to be prepared for the new direction and to have developed in a practical manner. Because now that's the time where the companies come and say, oh, okay, I understand that I have to change, but now you need to tell me how. So at this point, the new normal must be ready. And there is as well a final phase, a third phase. However, there is another, the renewed freeze is as well very important, which means that the securing and lining of the new path so that the industry gets orientation and stability again for the necessary adjustments, at least for a certain period of time. This is the phase where standards are very essential, and without the freeze will not really take place. So I think these three stages are very important if something of value should take place. And I think it's as well very much linked to the situation we are facing at the moment for the construction industry. So the second very relevant topic about the first one was to move the industry. The second one is that we need to speed up a bit, because we definitely always see a huge gap in between the potential we have already on the solution side and on the implementation side. So two factors could be influenced: the available solutions and the acceleration of the learning and implementation phase. This ratio between the available solutions and implementation level, I think it's as well a very good measure of a successful strategy. If the difference is small, you have a very good and balanced concept with a lot of impact. If the gap is large, you have to improve, because a solution without an application is definitely worthless. So the question is, how could we create a better transfer of innovation to the industry? And the first answer from my side is that we definitely need to establish a strong and stable network of communication. Without this, I think R&D don't know where the problems are, and the industry don't get in touch with the solutions. Over many years, we have established a stable network of relationships with industry ministries and as well associations. So we are sure that the tasks described require an intensive national but also international exchange, so that we are also very interested in cooperation with the process in Singapore. The aim must be to bundle the possibilities. The advantage in Singapore, I think, is certainly the high level of government housing, which we don't have in Germany or in Europe. So the second thing is that we need, and we try to establish innovation and development partnerships in which we can push forward development together over a longer period of time. In doing so, we use the entire potential of the front office society to increase the innovation power of our customers. We as well try to reduce the time to solution, and we try to stabilize the future viability. I want now to show some specific examples. So the first one, which you could see here, is a process where to find a solution where we combine task-specific individual service modules into some thematic blocks. So this results in an agile solution structure that can always be adapted to a respective task, but at the same time follow an overarching plan. What we could see in the example here is a plan for the future viability of a builder with a common data environment, digital methods for inventory recording, innovations from a startup area, as well as evaluation modules for determining parameters and performance of planning and inventory, as well as modern solutions for forecasting using simulation models, IoT, or predictive maintenance. The second example shows a current plan which we recently finalized together with the construction industry to implement the way to a more data-driven business in combination with largely autonomous building operation. This long-term goal over about 5 to 8 years follows several stages in order to lead the market participants step by step to the goal with easily implementation solutions. So you start with simple and quickly realized modules. As the result, the complexity of the solutions increases to the same extent that they are also needed more time to develop. In this example, the goal is an autonomous and central control of existing buildings to be achieved over 4 levels. The first one is the descriptive level, which is the easiest one, with innovative recording methods to the predictive. Then we turn over to the predictive level, which already has simulation models for forecasting, which are more complex. Then to the prescriptive level, where the pre-calculated forecasts, we could optimize already the control and operation in a very much better way. And you finally end up at the autonomous phase, where you just control your buildings over the assistance of artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. So it's a way to go, and it's very important to structure the way together with the industry when we want to be successful in this collaboration. Another example you could see here is, I think, one of our currently most significant developments. After water, concrete is the second most consumed material in the world. At the same time, the production is very energy intensive, and the usual methods of breaking only allow a downcycling of the filling to a filling material. The electrodynamic fragmentation we could see here allows concrete to be returned to all of the initial compounds of production, from the sand and the gravel to the fine fractions of cement, even in qualities shown that you could see in the picture in the middle. And all this is done in a few milliseconds. Controlled lightning bolts blast the concrete into its constituent parts exactly along the grain boundaries in milliseconds. So since only the tensile strength has to be overcome here, this method requires as well very little energy. And at the end, the circular economy solution produces even higher quality concrete because the surface roughness of the gravel has increased. I think a perfect example for a development where we started with our research and are now being made ready for serious production together with the industry. I think in combination with on-site production, the discharge of the environment will even be higher. The next slide shows a solution or an idea where I think we as well need to invest. I think it's another very important aspect of a successful change process for the following, because to address the following generations and their potential of ideas. For this reason, we have been organizing and supporting the Smart Construction Award as a part of the Innovation World Cup series for 3 years now. Who would have thought that construction in particular motivates many young people now to come up with new ideas and solutions? So the PropTech scene, I think, therefore, not only provides an incomparable treasure trove of new ideas and solutions, but also represents a new generation with the potential to completely redefine the building industry. But again, there is a small problem about this. I think finally, here I want to address the second part of the change curve we saw before with the specific question, how can the learning process be accelerated? So far we talked a lot about creating new solutions, but now let's finally talk a little bit about how to speed up the implementation. One of the biggest barriers to realize new innovations and solutions is the implementation risk. Especially in times of high demand and pressure to complete, as we have it right now in Germany and all Europe, the willingness to use new solutions and methods is quite low by industry. the risk is too big that errors or delays in the process will occur due to lack of experience. So we have therefore thought about how we could reduce this risk in a targeted manner and accelerate the learning process by lowering this risk of implementation. And the solution is, or are, the experience labs, which definitely is one of our central solutions here. This represents the reality for important processes change in the laboratory-like environment. At the same time, they are linked to suitable simulation models so that there are also digital twins for every physical platform we have. And in combination, digital process chains can be fully implemented and analyzed because all relevant situations in the real building, such as external climate conditions or occupancy by people, can be triggered in the labs in a targeted manner. And therefore, the learning process is enormously accelerated in this secure environment. The general aim is to end up with a proof of concept and at the same time, the visible demonstration of the functionality, which reduces the implementation risk for the user as much as possible. So at the same time, many of the new developments from the PropTechs can be implemented here so that their function and added value are quickly and transparently visible for the industry. So builders, investors, and the industry are then specifically invited to demonstrate the latest solutions here on these experience labs in full function and to ensure that they work well and provide benefit. At the same time, as I said, we use these labs to validate our simulation models, since here, in contrast to the reality outside of the built environment, the boundary conditions can be set exactly and compared with the simulation results. So finally, I think I hope to I managed to provide a little insight into our situation and our solutions. I think Singapore, like Germany and Europe, is facing one of the most challenging but also most exciting times of change. We can and must initiate change and shape it successfully. So I'm enthusiastic about the visionary plan of the Singapore government and hope that this marks the beginning of an intensive exchange of solution and experience. So I would say complicated tasks can only be succeeded in a team. And so my intention is that we should cooperate together. Thanks a lot. So thanks for listening and watching to my presentation. I hope I could get good insights in how we structure our R&D work in relationship to the industry. And I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to speak here and wish the very best to all the efforts on your side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirmayr, for the very informative sharing of what the European Union and the Fraunhofer Society are doing. I'd like to encourage participants to get in touch with Mr. Kirmayr to exchange notes and, of course, to explore possibilities for cooperation. Echoing Kurt Lewin's theory, which Mr. Kirmayr mentioned, let us leverage on R&D to challenge the status quo and to work together in pushing the boundaries of innovation to create a new normal in our USS. Our final program for today will be the Q&A panel discussion with our two international guest speakers. We look forward to gleaning valuable perspectives from them on global insights and trends. May I now invite our moderator, Prof. Khee, Dean of the School of Design and Environment at NUS, and our speakers, Dr. Luebkeman and Mr. Kirmayr, back online. To our speakers and moderator, we would like to invite you to turn on your mics and videos for the session. To our dear participants, thank you for the exciting questions that you provided. Over to you, Prof. Lam.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for participating in this e-symposium. I'm particularly excited to have this opportunity to talk to Dr. Luebkeman and Mr. Thomas Kirmayr in a minute. But I think I'd like to have a shout out to, I think, Minister Graceful and Minister Desmond Lee, I believe, participating. And as well as a warm welcome to the 1,000 over participants, I understand, who are online listening in to this session. So welcome everyone. You know, we have heard from Minister Desmond Lee in his talk on the overarching theme of emerging stronger from COVID-19 for Singapore. And more specifically, for our built environment sector, the Singapore Green Plan of 2030 is truly a pertinent part of that aspiration. And it is remarkable that despite the impact of COVID on our economy, the government continues to believe in and commit the necessary resources to drive R&D through the RIE 2025 program. And that not only did it commit, it actually provided some 30% increase in the resources compared to the RIE 2020 amount. And that truly is a testament to that commitment. So without further ado, I just want to thank the participants who have submitted questions during the registration. And I've tried to curate those questions somewhat in order to group them together to pose some general as well as specific questions to our two members in the panel, to basically so that they can address multiple dimensions. Given the time limit, I'm sure we can't possibly answer everything, but we will try our best. I'm sure our speakers will try their best. But I also understand Chris has already been busy typing answers in the chat room, so that's good. Never waste time. So it's really good to have both of you, Chris and Thomas, to join in this dialogue session. So let me just start with a general question that is addressed to both of you. So each one of you can answer that. So I believe that in everything we do, it has to be people-centric, right? That's the whole purpose of why we are doing what we're doing. And we can broadly classify, I think, the human needs and aspirations in 4 aspects in terms of its physiological, psychological, sociological, and economics. So in each of your own respective domain, expertise as well as your experiences in your cross-disciplinary R&D and translational endeavors that you all have gone through in your very illustrious career, can you share with us what are some of those critical success factors in order for us to achieve that ultimate vision of a sustainable and a resilient nation? A very general question to start with, and then we can drill down into more specifics. Thank you. Maybe Chris
Sure.
can make a start.
How about if I start? Well, it's wonderful to see
please.
everybody. Thank you so much, Prof. Lam. And as I said earlier, I just can't wait to actually be in Singapore with you. So for me, you're actually asking 2 questions. And one question I'm going to answer by, it's really very often we've had a language of separation in our industries. It was either intentional or unintentional. There's a way to sort of protect our professional domains or intellectual domains versus a language of collaboration where you're really trying to make the effort to be able to communicate with others in a way that they can understand. And I think this has been an issue of segregation for us for many, many, many years. It's like, I'm going to tell you what I want to tell you, how I want to tell you it, rather than, hey, let's find a way that we can communicate about the topics in a similar way. So I think if we really focus on the language of collaboration rather than separation, that's one critical success factor. I'm going to give you 3. The second is that you have to truly believe that working together is going to result in a better product, a better result, a deeper, more meaningful result. And if you believe in that, and then you're able to, as in any relationship, because really collaboration is a relationship, if you believe in that, then you'll be able to get through some of those communication challenges, the arguments, because you know at the end, this is our goal. Our goal is to make the nation fit for purpose for the next 100 years. And what we're doing is doing that. And that's part of our economic success can be that.
Right.
And the third one I'm going to say, Prof. Lam, and then I'll end, is I think a critical success factor is to accept the realities of our incredibly challenging world, which is coming at us with the geopolitical and the geoeconomic and geo-environmental challenges which we're facing. And if you accept those realities, then that helps to build the belief that collaboration will give a better product in the end. So those are my three. And I yield the floor, good sir.
Thank you. Thomas, over to you.
Yes. I think these topics are very close to how we interpret as well our work. So we develop many of our solutions in a user-centered way. So from our perspective, technology is an instrument, but the humans at the end define and decide on the quality and attractiveness of our built environment. So I think a sustainable and resilient nation creates working places that promote your health and performance, and provides maybe living spaces that promote social coexistence. And I think the demand for the future must lead us more from the minus to the plus in construction. Yeah? The motto shouldn't be any longer less bad than rather better for our inhabitants and the users. So I think our buildings need to change from consumers to suppliers, from emissions to health promotion, from environmental pollution to relief, and from side to side more to I think a kind of a togetherness. Yeah. And I think then we're definitely on a good way. And I think I had a good speech some years ago about a future specialist, yeah, and he said to manage all that, we definitely need to come from the have to the want to want. Yeah. So it's very important then that the people are getting, as you said, Chris, an interest and a belief in that it's possible. And then I think you get things started. As long as these barriers are not away, it's a slow change and can't be accelerated in the right manner.
Yeah. I'm going to add one tiny thing, if I may, Prof. Lam. Sorry.
Please.
It's very, if you take a look at the two words, very simple, me and we. And me, and you flip it upside down, is we. And so so we have to move from the research and the focus on me to the focus on we. And I frankly, Singapore is a great place for this. There's a tremendous belief in the we, much more so than many other countries in the world. And so there's already 3 steps forward with focusing on the we, with recognition that only through we will we survive and thrive. And so the Voraussetzung, as you say in German, the ground rules are already there.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's very good. I think you've given really a very overarching, comprehensive response to that question. Now, there's another question from the participant about the decarbonization. I'm putting it up on the screen right now. The question is, novel decarbonization technologies and initiatives such as zero waste and building a circular economy are 2 cornerstones of the USS domain, as we are all aware. So would you be able to share more about the global trends and potential areas of research related to these 2 topics?
So how if I kick off again? And Thomas, you've been thinking about this a lot too at the Fraunhofer. So we've been working on the complete spectrum from fully nature-based, where it's just simply for us in Switzerland, rotating animals through crops, so you're pushing more carbon back into the ground, all the way to very hard science with our Climeworks spin-off, where we're literally pulling carbon out of the air into a product. So to me, if we're looking globally, there's an entire spectrum from full nature to hard science. The other part of that is looking at the differentiation between permanent and temporary capture, right? And what does it mean to be permanent? This is a hard one for us all. And then the third thing I'll say is there's a difference between capture, mitigation, and avoidance, right? So how can we, and this is what I think for us, when we're looking within Singapore, is what can we be doing to capture, to mitigate, which is to reduce, and then to simply avoid, just like there's certain, this is, I think, a great research area, is just what are the things we can do just to, so we don't have this problem in 100 years from now. And I think this is crucial. And then that all institutions are also focusing on their own net zero life. At ETH, we're doing this is with our Net Null initiative. So all the way down to 1, 2, and 3 emissions and accounting for it. We have to take on our own corporate and individual responsibility to focus on how we become net zero. Right?
Great.
Thomas?
Yes, I think from my perspective, it's as well three points to that. I think the one is the decarbonization, as it was mentioned here. For sure, there is a lot of R&D work going on to realize that, to get it out of, especially from industry processes, for example, where we have the release, to bring it back to a material that could be used then, to just not to release it and to store it for some way. So I think that is the one very important thing, and there is a lot of research going on to realize that, I think. The second is that it needs to come to a kind of, when we come to the material, then it needs to get in the circular economy, because otherwise we just gain some time. Yeah, because if at the end of the time it will be released again, it's good for the moment because we could use it because we need to lower very quickly. But then we need to do our homework in between, because we will have at the end something which might be released again, and then we need to be in a better position than we are today. So the second thing that then we need to install the circular economy is essential, I think. And the third time is lifetime. Yeah, lifetime is as well a very good instrument. Yeah, because as long as I don't need to touch something, it's not additionally something which creates a problem. So we're as well thinking about making our built environment very attractive and maybe more flexible than in the past, to adapt to the different situations. Yeah, to not have so much need for renewal, and therefore that as well, I think these three things could help us. Yeah, but it's a hard way to go, but for sure there is a lot of pressure on that.
Great.
May I add one more?
Sure.
Okay, so one more thing I just made me think of is this: is if we design, we have to remember the built environment is going to be changed, right? It's not there forever. And we're going to assume that Singapore, as a nation state, will be there forever. So therefore, we have to recognize we're going to have to rehab, tear down pretty much everything that's there at some point. And so all new construction should be designed for deconstruction,
for sure.
Right? And if you do that, if the idea that our buildings are actually banks, like a savings account, rather than something to be thrown away or turned into new sand or something. It's a savings account. They give a very different mental map. So you have to have a deconstruction plan and to think, okay, what would it be then? And the second is, I think we need more tools to design, optimize for carbon. And I think for our product designers, our process designers, our building designers need optimization tools, because we have super clever people working on this. We don't have too many tools which optimize for carbon reduction. We optimize for money, we optimize for time, but not very often do we optimize for carbon. And so this could be another way to help decarbonize, and this could be a really interesting area of research.
Indeed. Yeah, totally agree. I think you all have really hit on some of the really salient key points. Circularity and the ability to look at the life cycle. I think all these are important concepts and elements. As we drill down further, of course, as they say, the devil is in the details, and it's often how do you execute, right? even given all the tools and the methods. It goes back to what Thomas says, ultimately it's about the people, right? It's the people who's doing it and the people who are receiving the results, as it were. So Chris, let me now drill down a little bit. And you know, you have an interesting multidisciplinary background in architecture and engineering, and a very, very career, both in academia and industry. And we kind of cross paths in the Chinese University of Hong Kong, where we taught classes at one time or the other. That was great. So traditionally though, you know, urban planning and architectural design and engineering and technology have been regarded as distinctly separate R&D domains, yeah? So in your view, you know, with all your experiences, what do we need to do to harness the strengths of those respective domains, right? On the one hand, the humanities and the social sciences, and then on the other hand are the hard sciences as well as engineering, and then to be able to perhaps adopt, adapt, integrate those methods technologically as well as you know, in terms of systems. Well, one of the points is that as the tools get developed in the past, they tend to align themselves to the method of doing sort of isolated, discrete you know, functions. So moving forward, what do you think needs to be done, even in the domain of tools and methods developed?
So thank you. So it's a really good question. And if we go back in time, it used to be that an individual, it took a person a very long time to do any one of those separate tasks. So it was really a division by necessity. And if we look over the past 20 years where our design tools have come and our understanding of these design tools have come, that's changed tremendously. So with big data, with some of the design tools which have been developed in Singapore, we're able now in microseconds to do what it used to take almost an army of men and women a week to do. And so we're able now to explore our options in a way which we couldn't before. So I believe we're going to be seeing a convergence of disciplines. And many of my colleagues will, you know, be very unhappy with this, but because of the capabilities of tools, this segregation and separation will disappear, because now we have the BIM model, we have the digital twin, we have the capability to together work on an object which before you couldn't. Right, so this is, I think, one thing which is going to change this. I also believe we're moving more and more towards a focus on performance-based design rather than prescriptive. Therefore, if you're focused on performance, that also means that you do need to talk to each other more. You just don't have a rule book, you have a goal. And our goal is the thrival of our citizens, right? This is what Thomas was putting in the human at the middle. So if that's the goal, then we have to come together to understand and talk about what those performance characteristics are. And I think this is, so I think this is, I think it's slowly, well, actually quickly being recognized as funders are requiring the cross collaboration. And I've seen an example for us here. We're starting an initiative looking at the Switzerland's buildings in a +5 temperature scenario, because this is one of the upper cases for Switzerland, which is a country driven. Our building stock has been basically designed for snow, and now we need to design it for heat. And so then now we have social scientists, we have architects, we have engineers, we have building mechanical engineers, everyone together trying to understand the implications on the human and their well-being, the elderly, the productivity in this new +5 world. And then thinking about the building codes we need to start thinking about now, so that our buildings are not, if you will, white elephants before they even are built.
So
right?
true.
And this is, I think, this is an example of how this coming together towards a goal, right? Is, I think,
again, another key theme that is music to my own ears: performance-based design. Something I learned in the 80s, which Again, what's new under the sun, as they say. But putting it into practice, I think requires that very important mindset shift, which then leads me really to Thomas. Next question is for you. You have another interesting kind of disciplinary combination. You are an industrial engineer and you also have an MBA, right? So picking on that, if I can be a little provocative, you know, our building industry, I would argue, is plagued with this, what I call the curse of the first cost syndrome. That is why often the scale up and uptake of many of the transformative and proven sustainable solutions derived from R&D in the past has been extremely slow and far and few between. In my own personal experience, it can take as long as 10 to 15 years. In any other industry, they would have been out of business a long time ago. So first of all, do you agree? And what can we do about it if you agree?
Yes, so I think a very good question. Yeah. So for the first part of it, I think we come from a time of performance, and I think we are entering a time of process. And so I think you need technical experience to generate performance, but you need interdisciplinarity to understand and optimize processes. And so I think both is necessary and is good to have, but the importance, I think, from the process side and the process control is increasing exponentially, I think. And as far as the question of the speed of the transformation is concerned, the situation, I think, is a little bit similar. Yeah? If one chooses the balance or observation area to be small, one would say that the degree of change is not that great and does not decide to leave. If you look at it in a larger context, you can see that the small effect is part of a trend in a large chain of effects, and you will decide differently. So I think in our economy too, it is the competition between short-term effects and long-term development. When we look at the climate situation, I think the problem is not the transformation process might take 10 to 15 years, but that we did not start. At the time, we already saw the consequences. So I think it's not only the time needed to perform this change. If we want to change fundamental things, it definitely will take some time. It's as well a mixture of starting at the right point, not waiting, and giving the industry and all the participants as well the possibility to get into this new way. Yeah. And this is not easy. It definitely always needs some time. And as I said in my speech, you need strong drivers, to defreeze. Otherwise, no move.
Yes, indeed.
So another thing I believe, and maybe Thomas, you can correct me if this is not correct, is a broader understanding of risk.
Yeah.
Right. From a first cost standpoint, if you understand that the risk of your resale is, if you're at risk of a lower resale because of you're not including the longer term impacts of climate on your building, that your building is going to be just a hog to run, then you actually, so I think this changing of understanding of risk, I think, and bringing that into the cost structure and the asset value, the asset evaluation is also changing this.
I think, you're talking about the drivers. Yeah. So I think that this is one very strong driver. So if you have fear about your future, you start doing something. If you're sitting at the beach and saying, "Oh, the orders are coming," you're not so in the position to grab up new things. But and the second thing is as well, one of the most important drivers we have in Germany at the moment. The impact of the sustainable aspects on the value of the assets. So exactly. We get it from a complete new direction now. The banks are starting the change now, because they need to have a taxonomy. They need to prove that their buildings are sustainable in some way, and therefore we get an enormous driver in a very good manner. Yeah, because they take it off sustainable finance, and these are definitely very strong drivers helping us to get it on the economic side, so that it's not just a competitive advantage, is as well an economic advantage to go that way. And I think this will help us for the transformation very much.
Indeed.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think this really leads on to, so time is almost up, is it? So nobody could put up there. We have questions from hands. Do you want to? There are some hands up questions. Can we pop them up? It's never enough time for this, but hopefully we will be able to answer some of those questions, on capture them and have them online.
For sure.
Yeah. For sure. No? Okay. So, well, sounds like we can continue. So, all right, following from that discussion, I think it would be good to lead on to this, continue a little bit more on this notion of sustainability as a life cycle concept, right? So moving beyond the first cost, as you said, that there are obviously in the life cycle process, we start with design, then construction, commissioning, and onto operation as well as maintenance associated with it. So as far as you can say, where do you think, if we have this, limited resource, where is the biggest challenge and gap in this life cycle process, in your opinion? So maybe Chris can start off, and then Thomas may want to answer.
Okay. If I look at where the investments have taken place within Singapore in the past 4 years, 5 years, and moving forward, it's hard for me to identify a gap, frankly. I think you have frankly done a really great job of looking at the ecosystem, looking at the breadth from all of the digital transformation all the way down to material transformation. And cities in nature, I mean, I think it's truly something that many other places should be envious of. The one challenge I do see is how we bring this onto the construction site. How do we bring this brilliant work into everyday utilization? And this is always this a stumbling block, right? Very often. Is the moving from the lab to and I see no magic solution to this, except as we're doing today, is having a conversation around it and making that so that the industry understands the government is really serious about seeing the changes and create marketplaces. So sorry.
No problem. I'm going to squeeze in one last question, actually, for Thomas. The coordinators are saying we're running out of time, but I must squeeze in this question for you, Thomas. Singapore is well known globally, right, for its water story. It turned an existential challenge into not only meeting sustainable needs for itself as a nation, but also able to cultivate so many business opportunities that are being now recognized. Can we do the same for energy? And what may be some of the similarities and differences in approach?
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice question. I think that's a little bit fitting to the question before, and as I addressed it as well in my speech about this processes. I think a real and fundamental change rarely takes place on its own, but often out of the necessity of the situation with very strong drivers, as we already said. So not that I would like someone to have big problems, but I think there is also a strength in overcoming them. Providing that the problem was mastered. But I think it's the same way with the energy. Scarce goods are valuable when many need them. And many countries certainly do not understand our decision, for example, to phase out nuclear power. as a country without fossil fuels and a high level of technological knowledge. But I'm sure that this will secure the business models for the future for us, because we generate pressure from the political decision to change in a direction that many will ultimately need in future. And I think this is definitely part of a sustainable and safe nation strategy. As long as many do not decide consistently enough for an inevitable change, I think there is a great business potential for those who do. And when it comes to technology alone, I think you might catch up quickly, but when it comes to processes and structural change, it will be a competitive advantage for many years, I think. And so to make it easy, I think the bigger the challenge to master, the bigger the advantage if you succeed. So I think that's the same thing with the water. Yeah, you had a problem and you solved it in a very good manner, and this helps us to have solutions for others. And I think that's the same with energy. So there are a lot of parallels possible, I think. Yeah.
Very well said. Thank you very, very much, both Chris, Thomas. We could go on. I could certainly go on this conversation with both of you for a long more time, but let's look forward to a time where we can do this over coffee, real coffee. I think we all are looking forward to that. So thank you all very, very much for taking time to join, to share in this e-symposium, and also to all the participants for your presence. For those who we are not able to get to your questions, I'm sure the organizers will capture those questions and then share with our two speakers. They can then respond in their leisure as necessary. So with that, thank you very, very much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you as well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prof. Tham, Dr. Luebkeman, and Mr. Kirmayr once again. We hope that you have found today's opening webinar insightful. Before we draw to a close, as mentioned by Prof. Tham earlier, please do continue to write to us on your questions. We will try our best to answer to you. Do also continue to join us in our subsequent webinars. For the month of April, we will be having a thematic webinar on resilience titled Smart Estates, Adapting to a Disrupted World, jointly organized by HDB, SNDGO, JTC, and VCA. Do keep a lookout for details which will be sent to you shortly. Thank you again, and good evening.